What's going on? My name is Amy. Welcome to the channel. I'm a 6 months day trader, and in today's video, doing a quick recap of Tuesday, I took 0 trades, and here's what happened. So let's start it off with the very beginning of the morning. I'm waking up at 3:45 a.m. because it's Pacific Coast time here. Wanted to kind of take it a little slower than I did yesterday, where I felt like emotions were taking over. And yeah, I just was like, let's ease into the morning. So I didn't get to my trading desk until about 4:20 a.m., so 7:20 a.m. And my trading tribe on Telegram, which you can join for free, there's a link down in the description and the comment section below. There's people trading about 7 a.m. The pre-market's kind of popping at that time with news. And then there's people in there trading pretty much throughout the day. Big chunk of us have been kind of piling in pre-market through the open and whatnot. And that's what I did today. I stayed from, 7:20 a.m. Eastern all the way through the open. And I think I kind of quit the day about, quarter after, 15 minutes after the open or so, 15, 20 minutes. It was just one of these days where the typical nonsense of pop and drop, low float stocks that we're trading, just all popping up all over the place. And there was some things we were looking at, we're like, oh, maybe this one. I think some people got into ALZN. There was a couple other things popping up on the radar. And it was like, as soon as you would see it make a move, it almost always kind of dropped right after, or it was like doing, up, down, a little up, down. And to me, I was really looking for that A+ quality setup. The only thing that I kind of had my eyes on was HCWB, which I'm trading like Ross Cameron for 20 trades, doing my best to execute his strategy as a beginner. And this definitely met his criteria. In fact, he was trading it today as well. This one, though, it felt like a flashback of yesterday. So yesterday's recap video, I explained how I was in KLDY, whatever it was, and the 1 minute candle ranges were huge. Like, this was an under $20 stock, and the candle was ranging between $1 to $3 price movement. And I got caught in that yesterday, and I said, you know what, we're gonna just be a little bit more mindful today, and we're gonna look for really good, clean setups. And there was a couple of times where HCWB was kind of, might have been a good entry. I'll show you guys the, actually I used Robinhood's charts behind me because I like them. And I trade on Thinkorswim, but I don't like the way the charts look. But this iPad, I'm going to show you guys just kind of the price action of HCWB this morning. And this is TradingView, but you can see it has this enormous pop. And right off the bat, you're looking at a stock that goes from like 550, shoots up to $10, drops back down to 650. This is a 1 minute candle. I mean, the price literally doubled in that 1 minute candle and came back down almost all the way. So, we're looking at this in the pre-market and we're like, what the heck? And then I see kind of this, enormous second green candle that goes from, looks like about 7, pops all the way to freaking $11. See this huge green candle here. And it was like, what? And of course they did have news. It met all the criteria of Ross's like 5 stock criteria selection. So the float was under 20 million. It was more than 5x relative volume on the day. It had news. It was over 10% gainer. So all these things were there. And I kind of, I'm just watching and seeing like, is this a good stock? And I said, you know what, let me just jot some things down while it's moving. And I put that I wanted to, before I got into a trade, my situation was like, if I get into a trade, I'm going to write down likely where I'm going to enter, my take profit level, and my mental stop. So I had some notes up here of like, make sure you write these things down. So when I was kind of watching it, I wrote down potential entry of like 1040, and my stop was like 990, and I put like a take profit of 1150, and this probably could have played out, but I wasn't confident in these candle movements. And even if you look at the selling volume, this just made me nervous. Like look down here at the volume. You had that one green spike, and then you had these huge red selling volume bars at the bottom, and it was like, I don't know. I just felt like if I got in, I was going to get flushed really fast, and it just didn't give me a lot of confidence. So I was like, well, I'm just going to kind of watch it and write things down as if I was going to trade it. And then the next area I put that a possible entry was 1160. This would have been like a high of day at that point. And I put it like, if I was going to have a mental stop of 1118. And I just sort of like watched the stock do its thing. What was great was I never felt like FOMO, even though this thing, went up and up and up, I think for a high of somewhere around like almost $17. And I definitely the potential was there. People in the group, in my Telegram group, were trading it. Some people were making money, some people got caught in the volatility, but I just was grateful I didn't have any FOMO. And what I learned about trading like this, not trading, was I put in my notes recap at the end of the day, I said, no trades today, happily watched. Felt good to be emotionless and actually planning potential entry stops and take profit levels. So I think the best thing that came out of today, and by taking 0 trades, this happened, was that I just started to cement a new habit. And that habit is jotting this stuff down with a pen on paper and actually knowing and having a plan. Because what I realized yesterday and some of the other days I've traded these volatile low float stocks is that I was jumping into the trade looking for an entry that made sense based on, Ross teaches, if you're new, like look for a pullback, and as soon as the next green candle goes above the high of the prior candle, that's where you would jump in. Sometimes he will jump the gun and go earlier, but he said if you're newer, look for that. So that wasn't really an issue trading the last few days. The issue was getting in the trade, and sometimes you're in these crazy volatile stocks. Some of them have been crypto related. Some of them have been biotech. And you kind of are like, oh shoot, like you're in uncharted territory because some of them are ripping to new highs. So you really don't have necessarily like a resistance level other than potentially at a 50 cent or a dollar, even psychological level. That's really all you can go off of for some of these take profit areas. And you get in these things and you don't have a history for that morning, or even some of them, it's like, we have no history of this stock trading with this many shares. So the volatility is very uncertain. Some stocks could trade clean and have nice stair-stepping action, but we just really haven't seen that lately. And getting into these volatile stocks, I looked at the potential risk and I was like, okay, if I got in, my stop might have to be as low as, like a $3 drop from where I get in at, based on the way this chart pattern is moving, the way these candles are going crazy. And it just didn't make sense. I even told the group, like, guys, I'm looking for that most obvious stock. And this was really the only one I was considering most of the day, but it really it wasn't an obvious for me, because I'm looking for the one that makes the most sense, that I can trade with confidence. And to have such wild swings of volatility, I don't have a lot of confidence in that. And, what was nice was, even though I didn't take the trade, sure, could have jumped in, could have made money at one of these crazy spikes. There was some levels too later, where it's like, okay, maybe could have rode part of the wave. You got the big action here in the pre-market very early. And then you can kind of see like it had its moments, up, downs, Mostly it stayed above the 9 EMA. There was a couple times it dipped below, which might, I remember thinking too, that might have been a great entry. And I think that's where I wrote down my entry of 1160 was, I was like, okay, if it goes above that on where it dipped below a 9 EMA line, that might be a spot to jump in. But overall, just didn't have confidence in it. And I was like, hey, this is a winning day. Like, I mean, actually every day that you trade and you learn something, to me, is a winning day. Today, I learned a lesson and I didn't have to lose any money to do it. So that was kind of like, oh, I like that. And I walked away from the day having 0 trades, feeling an actual boost of confidence by not trading at all. Just because that takes like a certain level of discipline and knowing yourself and where you're at that day. And just kind of, not trying to bring the past into the forefront at all, but also knowing that, hey, I just dealt with a volatile stock yesterday. Do I really want to get into another one today where the outcome just seems so unpredictable? Not really, I will say that it's been helping me a lot. Every night, I will watch a Ross Cameron technical video. Something that teaches me, indicators, MACD, volume weighted average lines, candlestick patterns, looking at the charts, just watching his recaps, I always learn something. And cementing that trader mindset into my brain. And then last night, I actually also watched some Mark Douglas videos. So he wrote Trading in the Zone. And I said, I really just want to have a strong mindset going into Tuesday. I think that's really important for me right now. Like focusing on the mindset stuff and also just realizing, hey, this is all probabilities game, right? It's not gambling, but we are kind of like betting on a probability. And if we have a strategy that we are confident in, we've executed, we've had wins, that gives us like our edge, right? But the game of probabilities comes from the fact that anything can happen. And I love that Mark Douglas pointed that out. Like I pulled up some of his best quotes on ChatGPT and I was just like, oh, right. Because had I read some of these quotes yesterday before I got into KYDL, whatever the heck, then it might have helped me. So some of the quotes I pulled up yesterday, he said, the market doesn't cause stress. The energy of your unresolved beliefs and unmet expectations causes stress. And I was like, oh, right. Like one of the things I learned from him was that when you have the plan of, I'm going to execute this trade, I know where I'm going to get in, and you know what your risk is and your potential take profit level is. Like that's all you really know. He's like, then at that point, you have to just completely release attachment to the outcome. And every trade I feel like I've done the last, 5, 6, 7 trades, I've been like so attached to what is going to happen. And I'm like, oh, right. Like this is why you're causing yourself emotional flare-ups, why I revenge traded yesterday. I just feel like he can say a lot in like a sentence. He's like, you can't force the market to give what you want. The more you try, the more resistance you create within yourself. How often do you get into a trade, it doesn't go your way, you take a loss, and you're like, well, I'm going to get back in and I'm going to make all my money back and then some, right? You're forcing the market at that point, like to have that attitude. And when it doesn't happen and maybe you take a bigger loss, then you get really emotional. Let's see, where's another one up here that he said, the hard, cold reality of trading is that every trade has an uncertain outcome. Right? Like, facts. Like, you can't control what some random seller on the ticker tape might decide to do or not do, right? Somebody comes in with some huge order, and right when you're getting in at like 450, they're like, oh, I'm selling at 450. Next thing you know, the price drops 30 cents or whatever. Just hypothetical. You can't control that. You just don't know, right? And you have to just really let it go. And I light bulb moment, you know, last night going over these quotes. I'm like, yeah, I've definitely been way too focused on the outcome. Yeah, and then this one too. You don't need to know what's going to happen next in order to make money. Yeah, like you could say it's almost in those scenarios where you end up making money that it felt like luck or chance. And in some cases, yeah, because you can't plan the outcome. You can say, I have a plan, but that doesn't mean that it's going to go according to plan. And so for me, today's zero trade day was like, hey, here's what it feels like to just kind of sit from the sidelines and not be emotional about the trade. Because I wasn't in the trade, right? So I had no emotions about it. That's true. But it also taught me that, hey, there's probably a way I can be in this trade and feel the exact same as I do right now, not being in the trade. I believe it's a matter of conditioning yourself, you know, a little bit of like self-talk before you start the trading day while you're getting ready to jump in a trade. Just like the outcome doesn't matter, right? It's if you are confident in, hey, like I'm learning, I'm doing everything I can to get better at this. I'm putting in the hours, I'm putting in the time. And I believe that I've got a strategy that if I follow consistently, I will see consistent profitability, consistent success. I don't know out of 20 trades which ones I'm going to get and which ones I'm not going to get. And I love Mark Douglas's idea of thinking in a series. And he says 20 is like the basis of that. Anything more is not really necessary, but like looking at 20 trades, okay, where are we at? You know, looking at each single individual trade to analyze how good or bad you are as a trader is completely pointless. You could have followed every single rule and you still could have lost money, right? And that's okay. Like Tom Hugard says, best loser wins, okay? It's how you handle losses. And I just heard Ross say this today. You know, he's like, really the most successful traders are the ones that become the best losers because they can take the mindset and completely change perspective about what other people will get emotionally triggered by. And they're just like, no, it's part of the process. Like, it's all good. Moving on. Next trade, next trade, next trade. And I encourage you to maybe like think of doing this because I was doing this at one point. When I was down to trading with one share, this almost felt like easier to do this. But I used to get in a trade. If it was a loss, I was like, next trade. Forgot it. Like it's gone. It's done. Next trade. Won. Cool. Whatever. Next trade. Yeah, and just like keep focusing on being in the present moment because I think that's going to take the anxiety away. It's going to take that expectation away, right? Because if all you expect is that I'm going to put on a trade and something's going to happen, that's my only expectation, right? Then guess what? You'll never be disappointed. Something will always happen. You'll never have unmet expectation. You'll never have disappointment. It's like, where are you at with your expectations? If you can just be as like calm and neutral about it as possible. Granted, this is money, right? A lot of people have triggers around money. I am included in that. But when you separate that idea of the money meaning anything about the trade, it kind of helps. So like going forward, I'm actually going to really focus on, maybe I hide the P&L on Thinkorswim and just solely focus on the charts. I've got my little plan, you know, I don't need to know, okay, how much am I green by or how much am I down by? If I've got my plan written down, right, before I get in the trade, that's all I need. I don't need to look at the P&L. That doesn't matter. And I remember when I traded the one share, maybe two shares at a time, it was like that. I wasn't focused on the P&L because it was so small. I didn't care. You know, I was like, woohoo, I made 18 cents, you know, or whatever it might have been, or I lost 20 cents, you know. And that's why for me, it's kind of helpful too, to have like two monitors because I can just execute the trade, clicking my mouse button, you know, over here for Thinkorswim. And I can just be looking at the chart over here. Stay in the moment, stay in the trade, right? So anyways, if you want to come trade with us live. We just use the chat feature on Telegram, but there's a bunch of us now in Amy's Trading Tribe on Telegram, and we actually just crossed 200 members today. Woohoo! It's kind of like a beginner trader support group, and we also hold each other accountable. We're not all like these amazing successful traders. Some people are doing very well. Many people are like me, new on the journey, a couple months in, maybe under a year. And what's just really nice is realizing that you don't have to do this alone. I mean, one of my deepest desires, goals that I had when I first started trading was that maybe I would find a community like this, where I felt like I could ask stupid questions, and nobody would laugh at me, or I could share some dumb thing I did, or share a win. And regardless, either you're, supported or people are happy for you. There's no like jealousy or any of that stuff. And we hold each other accountable in the sense of like, you can type something in there and say, hey, hold me accountable, guys. And you might get razzed a little if you go against your rules. And at the end of the day, something I brought up yesterday, don't beat yourself up. The community like this, it's like people are there to uplift you and support you. And I think a lot of us either had or have right now nobody in our life who's really supporting us. Like if you tell people, family, friends, that you day trade, I am almost positive that you're going to get negative feedback. Like almost 99% of the time, most people are going to be like, why do you day trade? That's gambling. Are you crazy? You just lost your rent money. Like, you know what I mean? You don't need that kind of support, right? Nobody needs that kind of support. So if you want to come hang out with us, like I said, we start trading like in the pre-market, go all throughout the day to trade. And you can just sign up for free down below, Telegram link. And that's all I got for you guys. Other than, also my day trading resources down below. If you put in your email, Google Doc of everything so far that has helped me on this journey. I keep adding to that, so save the link when you get it and keep coming back to check in. So, all right, guys, take care. I'll see you on the next one.